in here. Okay, so podcasting shifting from conversational to academic approach. I've been podcasting in my class. My students have been podcasting for about the last 5 years. I started when I was teaching at university in Japan, and now I am back stateside, and I am continuing it in a different form, and as the title suggests, different content, but I am still podcasting. My students range from intermediate to low advanced. I think any student can do this as long as they have enough English to get their ideas across. Because for this, them talking in front of the camera or in front of the microphone, that's not the important thing. The important part is talking behind the camera. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's start when I was in Japan. And so it boils down to first doing a needs analysis. Okay, so needs analysis, you need to see what your students really need in order to get the most out of their language learning. So I noticed that in the classroom, the students talk a lot. And so if we're talking about kind of miles per hour, and the speed limit's around 50 to 60 miles per hour, that's where your students should be in the classroom, hopefully. So this was in Japan. It was all the students had the same L1, and they would try in the classroom. But as soon as they went outside of the classroom, they kind of just stalled. And they would use the English that has burrowed its way into their native language, but that's really it. And of course, why should they? They're with their friends. They're in a society that all speaks Japanese, so they don't need to. But just speaking English 1 hour or maybe 4 hours a week isn't really going to rapidly improve their language. So I wanted to create something that would try to mirror their in-class English performance and get them speaking as much as possible outside of the classroom. And so that's when I came up with podcasting. So what resources did I have? Luckily, if you ever work at a Japanese university full-time, they give you so much money. So I had a large budget every year, so I could afford to buy my own equipment. I had the students for one whole academic year, so I had time to really go in-depth with teaching them video production and how to shoot a good video, how to make it look more professional, and talk about the actual filmmaking process. And then our library and university had a lot of resources. So the equipment that I didn't have, students could check out additional video cameras. So I mean, I was very blessed with where I was working. It made video podcasting easier. Okay, so the tools that I used early on were mini DV cameras, which run around $300 now. So they're not the highest end, but they're not the lowest end. And I chose this because if the students use higher quality tools, then what they produce is higher quality and they get more motivated. If they use old VHS cameras, then the production quality isn't going to be good and they're not going to put too much effort into it. I used, I've always been a Mac guy. So I used my budget to buy Macs, but you can see the last two ones, those are old CRT monitors that I stole from other colleagues that weren't using them, so my money could stretch a little further. Then, because I was there year after year, I slowly upgraded. But I started out just borrowing this monitor from this friend, this computer from another friend. So beg, borrow, and steal if you don't have the funds to do it. I bought lower quality cameras, and this was really the key because I would use these lower quality, and they're about $100 each. kind of the flip cam, basically. And I would use these to video the process, the making of, the behind the scenes, because that's what's guaranteed that the students knew I was watching them and listening to them. And that forced them to use English behind the scenes. Without this, they would just use Japanese and I would never know the difference. I would just trust them, but we all know you don't trust students. So this forced them to use English. To the end, by the end of the first semester, I had one group said, Scott, we don't even think about trying to use Japanese anymore. We just automatically go into it. So there's something to be said for that. So here they're just planning what they're going to do for their next assignment. Do we need to turn the lights down? Can you see this okay? And so they're using English spontaneously. They can't script out this scene. They can script out what he's going to say in front of the camera, but to express his ideas, there's no script for it. So it's really making them think cognitively in English as well as just producing the language. Question? Is
this you documenting that?
No, it's another student in the group.
Okay, so you have, all right.
I'm in my office grading papers. Right. So I had them, there were groups of 4 or 5. One was a director, one was the documentarian, one was an editor, and the other one, this is in the other. No, the actor they had to pull from either other groups or someone could do 2 language, producer who had to get the permissions and make the schedule and all that.
And you give each of the groups one of the cheaper cameras.
Yes,
For the best.
exactly.